How's everyone doing this Tuesday? My name is Jordan Idell. First off, thank you for coming to the Doctors for Dancers educational summer series. So each week we're going to be focused on like a specific topic that we've had a lot of questions on in the past, whether it be at conventions or even just people reaching out for Doctors for Dancers. Brief description of Doctors for Dancers, if we have anybody joining that isn't as familiar with them, is a community of different specialists, whether they be personal trainers, physical therapists, athletic trainers, different variations of specialists that want to help dancers in order for them to realize they're artistic athletes and treat their body as artistic athletes. So my name is how I said, I'm Jordan Idell. I am a personal trainer right now. I'm in school to actually become an athletic trainer, to specifically focus on dancers for it. And one day I kind of reached out to Doctors for Dancers because this is what kind of inspired me to go back to school. I originally went to school a few years back, graduating a different degree, wasn't happy in that degree, and now I'm back. So that was like a quick synopsis of that short story right there. So let me go ahead and introduce our dance specialists for today. I'm going to let each of them kind of have their own little few minutes to give a more description about it. But we have Galit joining us, who is a personal trainer, Dr. Chrissy and Dr. Cassie, who are physical therapists. So if y'all want to go one by one to like kind of give a little bit more introduction, let the people in Zoom and Instagram kind of get to know y'all better, go ahead, more welcome to do so.
Doctors want to go first?
It doesn't matter, you can go.
Okay, so my name is Galit Friedlander. I have been dancing for over 20 years. I work professionally as a choreographer for the WNBA, if you ever see the Spark Kids. I've been teaching dance for years, and I started my journey as a personal trainer because when I was around 14 and I got really into more street styles, hip hop, house, voguing, whacking, I found that my friends that were doing ballet had a more clear trajectory to strengthen themselves for ballet and be as amazing as possible with Pilates and yoga and gyrotonics and whatnot. And there was no clear path. So I started working with a personal trainer actually, and have spent now well over a decade researching this and working with dancers. I also want to let everyone know I do have videos I've been creating over the last few years during the pandemic, which are fit from home. So I know that the dance life is very busy, very full, and we don't tend to have a lot of time to cross train, and we tend to travel a lot. So these videos are up on my website. We'll have a link I'll put in at the end, or you can just go to my own IG to the link tree, but fit from home. So you can get workouts in, short, longer workouts, any level. Thank you. There we go. And the whole idea is that you can take this in bites to properly strengthen yourself for your artistry and also hopefully prevent some injuries.
Yay!
Oh,
awesome.
last thing, sorry. I'm also the host of the DanceSpeakPodcast. Okay, that's it.
No, I was just gonna say I love the flyer. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Chrissy, Dr. Cassie, if either of you want to go next.
I'll go first. So I'm Dr. Chrissy Davis. I am a doctor of physical therapy and orthopedic and sports certified specialist. I am the owner of Precision Performance Sports Medicine, which this is our clinic right here and our wonderful logo back there. So I started off as a dancer when I was younger, actually progressed through dancing in college, on competitive dance teams, and actually danced for the Chicago Bulls for a couple of years back in the heyday. So like I'm very familiar with that world. And same as Galit, I was an accountant and I started getting interested in personal training, and everything I learned in personal training, I was like, wow, I wish I had known this when I was dancing. This would have helped so much. And then a couple of years later, I actually started working with a local high school dance team, which I've been coaching for 16 years in cross training. And then also went back to school to become a doctor of physical therapy. So we also work with keeping our dancers, healthy, keeping them strong, peaking their performance, and then also when that unfortunate time happens that there is an injury, we're here to kind of provide that spectrum of services. And what I find with most of our injuries for our dancers is that it's typically not as bad as you think it is. So the minute it starts hurting, get it addressed, because that's when we can actually just quickly get you back, give you some exercises, some things that Galit is probably doing as well. And you don't have to take time off. I think dancers get so scared of taking time off or feeling like, oh my gosh, something hurts and I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to push through it. And if you actually do the opposite, that's going to keep you dancing longer and keeping you from actually having to sit out or getting to that most important performance and being like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure I can make it through. So sorry, that's my little speech there.
I couldn't agree more.
That's why we're here.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Cassie. I am also a physical therapist here working at Chrissy's clinic of Precision Performance in Park Ridge, Illinois. I'm also board certified orthopedic specialist. I've been working as a PT now for about 6 years. 5 of those years were recently more spent dabbling in neurological PT, vestibular and orthopedic PT, but I really wanted to search for something that got more deep into the orthopedics and sports side of things, which is how I ended up finding Dr. Chrissy here at Precision. And I am a huge strength training enthusiast. During the pandemic, or I should say prior to, my own personal goals were more so on the running side of things. But once all the races and everything got canceled, it allowed me to really play into the strength training side of things. And seeing a lot of these dancers, we want to encourage to them the importance of strength training, not for the sake of what they sometimes these myths of getting bulky or getting just getting these giant frames, more so how important strength is to help them in their dance skills and their abilities and to really heighten their performance that way.
Yeah, I was saying, honestly, how all of y'all just said, and I should have said in the beginning. So our topic today is cross training. And I've been the most excited, like whenever Doctors for Dancers released, I guess, the schedule, and they're like, oh, which one you want to host? I like immediately picked. I was like, can I please do the cross training one, please? That's the one I'm most excited about. Like, I have a background not only in dance, but also I used to powerlift for a long time. So like, it's extra exciting for me. And I try to also do that for my own clients, to be excited about actually lifting weights. So before we get started into the different questions I have prepared for y'all, just a slight disclaimer I want to put out there, and I'll say it at the end too. So this is just for educational purposes. If you're coming on, just have questions. Now, if you have anybody that you're joining that has like some deeper questions that they need a little bit more time to not only ask, but a little bit more detail, you could send it to Doctors for Dancers. You can go on their website, doctorsfordancers.com. Or if you want to see if there's a specialist in your area, you can also go on that same website and see what specialists are near you. So with that being said, one of the first things, and I'm pretty sure all of us know the answer to this, one of the first questions is, should dancers lift weights?
100%.
Okay, I feel like that's the simplest question to start with, but like also one that's needed, because I've actually had dancers like in class with me. I train like 2 of them myself like throughout the week, who are actually surprised that helps them. I mean, do y'all come across that?
Yes, 100%. And so what's interesting is that 16 years ago, my dance team actually reached out to us or to me to actually start, creating a strength program. And at that point, we used pretty much all resistance bands because we didn't have access in a big group to all the heavy weights. And flash forward to now 2022, we are working with our girls. Right now, we only work with them 1 day a week. I'd like it to be 2, but that's what the time schedule is. But the girls are back squatting, 115 pounds right now. I mean, they are ecstatic about it, and they are seeing how it's changing their performance, because we already have all that endurance from our sport, and we can, do the things that we need to do, but we have to increase that power, and that power is going to come through strength. So with any sort of power jumping, that takes 5 to 8 times our body weight. So we need to be able to lift that forcefully against weight to actually really improve that height on our jumps. And then it also improves with our control in any of like our pirouettes and all of that kind of stuff. So we want people to not be afraid of weights. I know, Jordan, you said you were a power lifter, and you could probably say with better experience than me how hard it was for you to lift heavy weights and to get bulkier or get that strong muscle. We don't get it from doing the things that most of the dancers are going to do in their cross training.
Right. And everybody, and I tell my own clients, everybody's body's different, right? So I remember growing up, the dance team I was on, and you can't see my full body right now, but if you look at my body, it's built similar to a powerlifter. I have thick legs. I'm able to squat pretty well, but like on a kick dance team, I struggled a little bit. I was able to get my kicks up high, but I was working hard for it. So since I've been in powerlifting and I was able to get my strength and understand what my body type is, now my issue too, because like I do mainly hip hop dancing, heels dancing, is to build up my stamina and endurance for it. Because with my body type's not built like that.
Correct. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of times with dancers, that's another thing. It's just learning about like me growing up, it was always a struggle to be like, well, why can they go do 50 kicks without taking a single breath? And I have to like being dying after 2 kicks high in the air.
And
sorry. No, go ahead.
Part of that is also the distinction between cardiovascular strength and muscular strength, endurance. So sometimes it's that we need to, like, I get strong more easily, but cardio is not the best for me. And I think there's this misconception, I hope I'm not jumping ahead too much, but that first of all, because you're breathing heavily and like it's really hard in dance class, that we need to just push that way to get better with our cardio. But usually what it is, it's simple things. It's because we're always starting and stopping. We're using a different energy system than the one that's going to give us that breathing consistency. So one thing I love to recommend to people is sometimes go pick something that's like moderate intensity, speed walking, easy-ish cycling, swimming, and get yourself up to 30 minutes of just continuous movement. And it doesn't have to be that you're like dying and it's like Rocky montage. It really is actually sometimes working your aerobic system at a different intensity from dance, and that'll become easier. Another thing that's really interesting, and I was thinking about today, with my dancers right now, like they do conventions and they're young professionals, kids and teens. And they were asking about endurance and I was giving them ideas, but also asking them what they already do. And then it occurred to me, they don't actually fully breathe while dancing.
Oh, 100%.
Oh my gosh. That's always my biggest issue when like training new people, like they don't realize they hold their breath. And I'm like, breathe. It seems like a simple concept, but you don't realize how much your body's under tension. You just hold that breath.
Right. And I think a lot of times, a lot of the dancers are using that to also like for that core assist, to try to give them that core stability, that they're also holding their breath, like, and also holding the breath, praying that they're not falling out of turns. But everything is like, okay, let's just tighten everything up rather than getting that breath in. And everything moves so fast these days as well, especially in the dance team world, that they don't really have time to take a breath. And that's where we will also throw in some like sprint interval training. So like sometimes my dancers are like, are you trying to make me a runner? And I'm like, no, but your dance routine is 2 minutes where you are basically anaerobic. You are not using oxygen for that entire time. We have to train that system, but not repetitively through doing your routine, because that's where you're going to get injured too. Is like, we need to change up the stimulus. We need to change up the directions that we're doing things in. So being able to actually just do some sprints, and my dancers hate it, but they also are like, yeah, it makes me feel better. They're like, we can get through the routine a lot faster. And I usually will make it harder in the last 2 minutes of their, hard workout, because that's where they fall apart, because that's where they've been holding their breath. They don't have that anaerobic energy system there working for them as well. So we need to train up to it.
Right. How do you like to, if I may ask, how do you like to train the sprints? Like 5 minutes of sprints, or start with 1 minute?
So typically it's 30 seconds to a minute that we really focus on. So we typically will run with our group in a field house where it's like 12 laps is a mile. So we'll do something like 1 lap sprint and then 2 laps easy, just kind of start off with. But then as the season progresses, we, get to more of that 1-to-1 work rest ratio. And then what I like to do, which that's when they hate it the most, is I kind of make it random. So I'm like, when I scream go, you sprint. And when I say, slow, then that's when you get your rest, and their brains are like, they're like, oh my God, when is this going to end? When is this going to end? And I'm still usually within a minute of that sprint, but then we do a lot of repetition. So sometimes I'll do 15 seconds, sometimes I'll do 45, kind of giving them that randomization, because then that also gives them the confidence that their system can handle it.
Mm-hmm. And it's like with that kind of stuff, how you were saying earlier too, it's like at first probably, and I get this question a lot at first, like whenever you're doing that type of training, people don't see the results at first and they're like, how is this helping me? And then when they finally see the results, they have that like aha kind of moment. So
Yeah.
like with all situations, like whenever you're doing the sprints and all that, do you see that like instantly, or how for dancers that are joining us, is that something that they have to kind of be like patient to see, right?
Yeah, it's definitely something that they have to be patient to see. It's just kind of like when you're progressing through your piece or your routine throughout the season, right? Like, I mean, you're doing choreography, you learn the choreography and it looks horrible to start with, right? And then you practice it, and it gets better because your body gets more automatic in that pattern of that routine and the music. And it's the same thing with sprint and or resistance training, lifting heavy stuff. The first 2 weeks that you're doing any of that, your body is actually just recruiting more muscle fibers to come to the party, as I kind of say. Like, because initially, like if we haven't been using it, there's only a couple of people that come to the party. We start to go into that mode of training and more people come to the party. That's where you start to get your first massive gains, is because we're recruiting more of the fibers and we're actually using our full system. And then we actually start to get stronger. So then I think that in that first 2 weeks, there is a typical, like they feel stronger. I wouldn't say that it necessarily floats right into their dance right away, but they can tell immediately that they're getting stronger. And a lot of that is just because of recruiting more fibers, and we're bringing more people to the party to say, hey, let's help this so that we can get strong.
I think like we also, as exercise professionals, as health professionals, we realize in our experience that there are moments when we can see on their faces, like, how the heck do these two things coordinate? So we do try to incorporate that into our programs. And yeah, there's also in the beginning, it's always about the basics. You have to master the basics, but we try to bring that into a dance simulated format. Like, instead of doing an exercise that's just standing on one leg and doing squats, like, can we do that in a plie position? Can we do that while we're like bringing our legs around, like we would do for a turn, or something that helps to stimulate that? And when they are able to connect that, anything that we are familiar with and enjoy, we connect that relationship better, which allows them to start to see how that buildup occurs and how it's going to relate to their full ability.
Mm-hmm. Let's say, and actually we just got a comment come in that said, yes, so true. So many of my high school students say that in their studio environments, they simply do their routine multiple times to use that as their build of endurance, but is an injury waiting to happen?
100%.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like with anything. So, sitting is the new smoking, or, sitting is bad for you. And it's really not that. It's any position, any movement, anything that we do consistently for a long period of time that we don't actually change, that's an injury waiting to happen. So whether or not you're standing all day, whether or not you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, it doesn't have to be just one position, but that is an energy waiting to happen, an injury waiting to happen. And that's why actually when we do a lot of our strength training with our girls, we very rarely do anything in second position or in turnout, I should say, because they already live there. We need to actually balance that out. Like, they need to learn how to actually use the other muscles that, even though they might be accessory, like our external rotators, in most people, those are our strongest movers. But in our dancers, they become that because they use those so much and they don't use their glutes as much. So we need to we focus on like non-dance positions for a lot of stuff to help kind of build that overall strength. It's actually going to give them more power and decrease their risk for injury, because that's that overuse of that muscle over and over again.
Yes.
And even though there really isn't much downtime or off-season time in the world of dance, as I'm very quickly realizing, This is any opportunity to work on those things is essential, because when you're in season, when you're competing, when you're doing all that stuff, that is the highest probability that injury is going to occur because you're repeating those motions over and over again. So you want to have something that you can fall back to on your free time to help to keep your body strong, so that when you are in the height of your season or the height of your competition, you're not, trying to put layers and layers of tape on your foot or ankle just to keep it, attached to your body to make your spot on the team or something like that.
It's also, I recently did an interview with Dr. Iafredi, and something she was talking about was with kids in particular, it's really beneficial. Sorry for hearing this beeping. It's very beneficial to also, if you have other interests, to actually train sometimes in another sport. It helps balances things out. I've also read it builds different neural pathways, because every time dance is going to throw different things at us. And if we're training very narrowly, like i.e. doing the same dance again and again and again, we're also sometimes limiting, what happens when something unexpected occurs on stage, or you have a quick choreo change. And then also, not to drill this into death, but if you're doing the same piece, there are certain muscles that you might not be activating enough, which I know has been said a lot, but we always want to make sure, even just within fitness, that we're getting all of the muscle groups. And then, like for me, I'm going to use an example. I have a shorter frame and I'm very quad dominant. So front of the leg tends to overwork. So I know usually I need to lay off of, like, that's already going to engage. I need to work the back of my leg, my hamstrings, my glutes, and really prepare that way and support my joints that way.
And I'm just the same way. Like, I overuse, and I didn't even realize this when I was powerlifting. I overuse my quads a lot. And like, even now when I'm doing just workouts in the gym, or even when I'm going to different master classes or teaching my own students, it's like I have to actively still think to activate my glutes and activate my hamstrings. So that way my quads aren't just taking over everything.
And in the world,
You're good.
Okay, cool. In the world of cross training, if you're using, obviously with dance, we use our legs a bunch, but let's say you were like burnt out, you might even start having a weird something happening with the knee, definitely get it checked out from a physical therapist. But if you're not there yet, then when you're doing cross training, I don't recommend that you do something that's going to take a big toll on the legs. Let's talk about different ways that we can get your heart rate up, or we can work on upper body and core without having impact on the knee. So I think sometimes there's this confusion or idea that if I'm dancing all the time, well, I'm using my body, but how about we focus on some of the muscle groups that aren't taking all the wear and tear, strengthen those, and also work on our muscles in a way. So if we're all standing and dancing and jumping, maybe you're doing stuff on the floor in quadruped position in order to balance out those leg muscles, instead of just doing, again, like overkill, or swimming, or, rowing.
And the one thing that I find with our dancers is that they really have weak upper bodies, like, and just even in terms of like doing push-ups, anything that's even body weight. And it always kind of surprises me because of the choreography that's being done these days. There's so much stuff that's coming off the ground, coming in from like the handstand, kip ups and stuff like that, like that we really do need to work on more than just the legs. Even though I think that that's what we all tend to focus on a little bit more. And then just going back to the comment about the quads, I don't think I've met a dancer yet that is not quad dominant. That, I mean, I always say that I'm going to make a t-shirt that says it's all about the butt, because that's where, I mean, we just, for some reason, don't use it. And so, especially for all those dancers that are constantly being critiqued about gripping through their quads, like, you just can't turn that off because your instructor, your teacher said, hey, stop gripping with your quads. There's something else going on, or something else that's not picking up the slack or doing his or her job that is making us grip through the quad. So whether it's that, our core isn't really helping to stabilize, whether it's not, we don't actually know how to use the glutes and help, with those external rotators to actually pull into that turnout and, to our first position and whatnot. So, just that is something that, like, if you're always getting a comment, correction from your instructor, from your choreographers, and you're trying, and this goes to the teachers too, like, most people are going to try. They're trying to do what you're telling them to do, because dancers are perfectionists. We're people pleasers. We want to be like, oh yes, you did such a great job. Like, you did exactly what I told you to do. So if you can't make that correction, there's probably a reason for it. And it's not because you're lazy or you're not listening or you're not paying attention. There's likely something going on. And that doesn't mean that it's an injury. It's just that there is an imbalance somewhere, that something's not doing its job. So that's why we're overusing the quads. And to re-educate that.
I love that. Something that I've changed over the years that I'm almost embarrassed to admit, but I want to be real because I'm probably not the only one that's done this, was let's say I would give push-ups at the beginning of class and I'm like, you know, I don't believe in girl push-ups. If we can give birth, like we can do a push-up raw. And yeah, there's something about the mental fortitude, but if your body's not built to the point where you can engage the abdominals and properly use your muscles and scapular stabilizers, upper back muscles, then it's like, I've gone to the side, all this to say, especially to my teachers, I've gone to the side of let's find the form that you can properly do and build up from there. And I know there's a mentality that I grew up with of just push, push, push. There's a time and a place for it. But something that fitness has taught me is take it back, because dancers, we work hard, take it back to the form that you can properly do and do not go past the point where your form goes.
Yes.
And build on that. Like you will be able to progress from that.
Yeah.
Right. And
It's just like when you're cleaning a routine, right? Like, you know, you learn the whole choreography, you're running it, and then you take a step and you're like, okay, let's focus on these 3 8 counts. And we're going to go over them again and again and again. And we're going to go through them slowly. We're going to go through the exact positions. It's the same thing. It's just in a fitness world and just making sure that we are doing the right motions to help get us strong.
And these are techniques that we use, even not even like if you choose to not dance after a certain point in your life, like if you're just trying to stay healthy for your fitness and your own health, like these are still very crucial things that can build into that as well, that we work with, not just with dance clients, but also with anybody who is experiencing an imbalance issue or an injury.
Right. And that's what's great if, like, say someone does like reach out to y'all specifically, or just any dance specialists that like either partners with Doctors for Dancers in their area, because we are able to see what's going on a little bit better. So, and it could be just a small, and that's why I've learned as a personal trainer, just a small detail could change. And then once that detail changes, it's like you're using all the muscles that you need to use in that like one particular exercise.
Exactly.
It's like if having those eyes, it's like, yeah, I could be in front of a mirror all day long trying to do squats, but if I don't have someone looking at me with the proper form, then I could be just doing it wrong the whole time.
And I think it's also not just a matter of like having the person there to guide you and instruct you, but it's also having the confidence in yourself, because we get a lot of clients that are like, oh, I don't know if I'm doing it right. Well, that's the other thing that we provide is instruction for you to help to teach yourself, so that you're not just relying on someone to help to do the form correctly, but you're learning that for yourself, so you can build that body awareness, go to a gym, go to your dance room and do those things and know exactly what you should be doing and working on for yourself. And it helps to build confidence that way.
Yeah.
Right. It's funny you say that, because like literally right before I like started this meeting, I had like one of my other like dance students like text me and was like, I think I may be doing RDLs wrong. Like, do you think I'm doing it right? And sent me a video, and I was like, I can answer a question quick like that. Like, you don't need me there, but I could just tell you need to text me real quick.
Yeah. And I mean, and as Cassie was saying before, is we, especially with our dancers, when we're working with our youth, as much as like we're working to keep you from being injured, to keep you strong and perform at your best, my ultimate goal is to teach you the things so that when you're in your 20s and your 30s, you know what to do. You can go to the gym. You're not like some of my 50-year-olds that are coming in right now and they're like, I know I need to strength train, but I'm so scared I'm going to hurt something. I've never done it before. I mean, I have girls now, my former girls that have had babies now, and they'll message me and be like, I was thinking about you today in my class when, you know, like I heard you in my head saying, you know, use your glutes, or, you know, so that's the thing. That's the teaching aspect. And that's what we want to be able to do, is really educate everybody. We're here as a guide, not as like you have to come see us every time. Like, we need to teach you what to do so you're self-sufficient.
Right. And then let's see, let's move on to more like, I guess not specific questions, but I know we've gotten these questions in the past. So I know a lot of dancers, they'll be late to class, don't got time to warm up. Right after the class ends, they'll run out. So if y'all can explain, why is it so important for dancers to make that time to not only warm up, but to cool down after class?
Can I start with the warm up?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we feel it in the morning because we're stiffest in the morning, especially in the spine. But if you think of like putting something, I like to think in the refrigerator, a liquid in the refrigerator, and then in the freezer, things tense up, they freeze up, right? And it's easier to, this might not be the most technically perfect one, easier to break, right? And then when you warm something up, it becomes more fluid, it becomes more easy. Our muscles, if we're immediately just throwing them into things, it's almost like overstretching a rubber band. When we're warming up our bodies, you always want to warm up before you stretch because your muscles, they need to ease into it. Now, your body might let you get away with just jumping into things for a certain amount of years, but if you've done that, after you've done that thousands of times, you don't know the time. First of all, there might be that one time, because warm up also helps you check in with your body, that something might be off. You didn't listen to it because you didn't have the time to listen to your body to ease into it. And I've had that before, you might suddenly get a strain. And then the other thing is, yeah, you're forcing something. You want time for your muscles to understand what they're doing. We're going to ease into this, and this is with the range of what we can do. So this is one of the reasons warm up is so important. And I have dancers that are super flexible. They might not feel it for years, but eventually they will. And then one last thing, if you are very flexible, there is a chance that it's not always your muscles that are completely working. It might be your ligaments. It might be your joints that are taking on the brunt, kind of faking it, but you're not actually understanding how to get into the muscle. And that I have a friend who injured out around 16 because that's what she was doing. So that's my part.
No, I mean, honestly, I love that explanation because so many times, like, especially for even just everyday people, they don't know the proper terms that we use as like dance specialists, physical therapists, trainers, like they don't know those terms. So something like that where it's so easy to describe, because me, if I didn't have that background, I'd be like, oh, that makes sense. It's just trying to get them to understand like it makes sense like that.
Yeah, and I also think like one of the problems with some like dance is that there's a lot of start and stop. I know that sometimes in my rehearsals, like where, you know, the choreographers were like, okay, this isn't working. So they're sitting there trying to figure it out. We've been dancing for an hour. We're, you know, sipping on some water, sitting around and talking. And then all of a sudden, like 30 minutes later, it's like, okay, let's get right back into it. You know, we do a couple little stretches here and there. But so we have to be cognizant of that too, is that in dance at times there is some downtime. And if we have cooled down too much, we do need to let time for the body to re-warm up, or at least to kind of get that blood flowing again, because, you know, our bodies are pretty smart and our bodies are pretty resilient. So the body thinks, hey, we're done. So I'm going to start pulling the blood back into the heart, start, you know, working on some recovery and repair stuff. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, let's go again. So, and again, it's part of the dance world. And it's understandable why it's there. So maybe even like for dance instructors or anybody that's on here, like, you know, that being kind of cognizant in your head. I know we all say, hey, while we're working on this, you know, you guys keep warming up, keep warm, but we know that that doesn't happen. So, you know, maybe you do have a shorter sequence to get everyone kind of back up and moving afterward, or, you know, in that section.
Our big thing, like your question was related to like, how do you make the time for that? How do you put that in there? Well, we have to go back to what is the dancer's priority, right? The priority is to dance and to be good at dancing. So what prevents that from happening? Injury, not feeling good, things like that. So if your priority is to dance and to dance well, then it becomes as equal of a priority to make that 5-10 minute time frame for a warm up, for a proper cool down, so that your body is primed to do the thing that it needs to do. I always talk, especially to my younger clients, that it's like taking a test, right? If you just were handed a test and you're like, all right, go ahead, you can do it. There's a percentage you'll be able to achieve, maybe not so great if you had the time to study for that test. So if you're actually doing that preparation, you're going to do so much better in that test, and your dance is that test. So it comes down to what level of studying are you doing, and any bit of it is helpful. So don't feel like 5 or 10 minutes isn't that much. At least it's something as opposed to nothing.
Yeah, I would say for sure. And just a quick thing, I saw a couple questions already come in our Instagram. So look, we're going to get to them. I already have them. Just letting you know, for anybody that's joining, I'm saving them for the end. So that way we could really like get into it a little bit deeper. But actually perfect that y'all like kind of finished, like said that, because the next like 2 questions kind of are in that topic. So like for dancers who are running late, because there's bound to be at least one dancer running late to class, what's the best and quickest way to get active before like a class or maybe even a rehearsal or audition? And then for scenarios like that, where there's a lot of starts and stops during a class or rehearsal, what is the best way to stay warm in that type of training?
Okay, I'll start. There's many different ways to do this, but I'm thinking of, okay, what are the things I need to prepare for? I need my abdominals strong. I need to be ready. My legs have to be ready for levels. I need my arms activated. So at the very least, I'm going to, at the very least, with my body, which is not super mobile, I'm going to start with roll downs, plies, going up, because the spine, especially if it's earlier in the day, can get more easily injured. Another thing is I'm going to do an active, so you can do active mobilization where you're stretching the body some, but also activating the muscles. So pardon this view, it's not the best, but I'm gonna do split squats where I'm engaging the abdominals and slowly working down through my levels. I'm gonna throw in some planks. I'm gonna do a regular full arm plank. I'm gonna do side planks so that all of this is getting woken up. And as I'm doing these different exercises, my heart rate is starting to go up some. When I'm in class and the teacher's stopping or working on a group, this group is going, I might even just be pacing in place to keep my heart rate up a little bit and the blood flowing to the extremities. Because what the doctors brought up, which is so good, is that the blood, it has to figure out where, for lack of a better term, where to go. When our muscles are activating, it's going to the muscles, and our body, if it's always frantic or doesn't understand what can, where to go, it can be detrimental. So I'm going to do that. But for me, split squats, lunges, side lunges, squats are getting me ready for the levels. I'm doing some push-ups to wake up my arms, my core work, maybe some glute bridges.
Wow, that's awesome. And look how Galit like didn't say anything about like a passive stretch.
I was just gonna say the exact same thing.
None of that is like
Stretching.
one of these guys, right? We're not just standing there and holding our quads for a minute and then going
so
to
much too. And
Yes.
it's like, I remember it was like mind blowing to me whenever I first started like studying for like my training certification, that they were like, don't do this before a workout. And I was like, huh?
Well, and it's kind of like the idea, if you're going to go like run a race or something, like you're not going to stand with holding your quad back for 30 seconds. That does not look like running, versus a dynamic warm up of like, high knees or butt kicks or like other things that we would do in that regard. So you want your warm up to truly get you warmed up and physically moving and muscle activating, as opposed to these static positions, which are more appropriate usually after the activity is over.
And dancers do that completely backwards. I mean, in a lot of dance classes, we'll do okay, we're going to roll into that. Yeah, that'll get the heart rate up. But, if a dancer's ever going to say, oh, should I do 10 jumping jacks or should I stretch my hamstring some more? They're always going to pick that stretch the hamstring more, because we have so many dancers that come in, they're like, oh my God, my hamstrings are so tight, when their leg is back behind their head. I'm like, your hamstrings aren't tight. Your core is actually weak. Like your pelvic tilt, like your back is tight. Your hamstrings are fine. Stop stretching your hamstrings.
It's always the hamstrings too.
Say that again.
I said it's always the hamstrings too. They're like,
oh, totally. Hamstrings and hip flexors.
And you're like, you sure?
Yeah. They're not tight, but they feel tight because they're not warm, because we don't have the core activated. If the core isn't helping us to stabilize, the body goes to the next joint to stabilize. So it feels tight in the hips, which that's the one thing you want to be mobile. So like getting the blood flowing, doing motions that are specific toward more dancing, not stretching, not working on your splits. At that point, you've already done that for most people.
And as somebody who like came from a non-dance background, as a PT, when I had the few dancers that come in and they said they were tight, as a therapist, you think, okay, tight means stretch. So we try to stretch them out. And then you realize these sorts of things where you're not actually, fixing the problem. You might only be adding to the problem, which is why it's so important to also look for a dance specialist who knows that tightness is not necessarily a true restriction in motion. It's actually a sensation caused by muscles not working enough or other joint areas that are actually having an issue.
Right.
And I want to say that like I've learned the mobilization and getting out of static stretching. Not that I will never do a static stretch in my life, but it's gone lower on the list from physical therapists. Like, yeah. So thank you. Yeah.
Now we just got to get that message out to everybody.
Everyone else. It's interesting because it ultimately weakens our muscles, and we have this like wonderful task as dancers that we want to keep everything elongated, maintain our flexibility, but also build strength.
Right. Yeah.
It's like also, it's like whenever how we have those dancers, again, I'm going to use this as an example probably the whole time because I've seen it so many times. We rush in class and then they rush out of class because they might have another rehearsal, another thing to get to. Now, if they want a static stretch, from what I've read, that's always better to do at the very end. If that is a goal of theirs, is if it is to get more flexible, it's great to just save it for the end of that particular workout, but not for the beginning.
Yes. And I mean, there are obviously different levels. So like when you're starting out in dance and you're actually, if you're not one of those people that are naturally flexible, I was not one of those people. So you're not trying to get your flexibility in your dance class because you don't have time for that. Like in that stretch, that's a warm up. So, you know, like you have to warm up and you get, those are kind of things that you're working on your own. But yes, like at the cool down, like that's where you want to get into more of that static stretching. Because again, you're trying to let your body cool down. You're trying to let that blood get back up into the heart. And then that's where you're going to kind of work on just at least, you might not be gaining flexibility at the time, but you're decreasing some of that like muscle tightness and that feeling that you'll have after class or when you wake up the next day.
Yeah. And then Galit, I know you got to get off in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Also want to check in with you if you want to send anything else through this and let some of our viewers know any additional information before you go.
Yeah, connect with me on Instagram. I'm happy to answer more questions at GoGalit, GoGalit. My website, gogalit.com. I do have a freebie. I forget if it's a stretch or a strengthen, but it's one of the two, which will be applicable for you if you just sign up to the newsletter. I also, through my website, have the online fitness series, those on-demand videos. And it's not me like trying to sell something. It's literally me being able to elaborate on, okay, so now here are exercises which are going to help properly strengthen you for your dance technique. So I think that's it. And then the podcast, Dance Speak, I have some interviews already with dance specialists. So if you go in it, you can also go to our Instagram, DanceSpeakPodcast, and we could like send you some of the episodes. But I have interviewed in depth some of the specialists, so we can go more in depth of some of the different categories here. But it's been a pleasure. I can stay on for another question, and then I will gracefully bow out because I have to go out.
I wanted to make sure that you got to say that again in case anybody missed in the beginning. Let's see. Perfect. Let's do like one more question before I get to the ones on Instagram. So, for example, how you were saying like with us having the dance specialists and having doctors for dancers, what kind of impact do you think these dancers who are like watching this kind of series have if they see a dance specialist such as yourself, like whether they come in like to your actual like place or train with you specifically, or just a dance specialist in general that they can find on Doctors for Dancers?
So what's the benefit?
Well, yeah, like what's the impact that they're going to have? So benefit, I would say what's going to help them overall, have these different like things that come through their mind that they don't realize that they should really be thinking about.
I would say longevity and improved artistry. If you're with somebody who matches up well with you, think about it. Olympic athletes and dancers are up there. All professional athletes have a whole team around them, and that's not given to us in the dance world. And there's something like, let's just talk about, for instance, the NFL. There's so much money on the NFL. The NFL is only going to do things that make their players play better. The NFL, with all of its millions or billions of dollars, knows that investing in a team for each one of their athletes is vital for them to do as well as possible. So, I mean, you're having literally like something that's going to help you with your artistry. Why? Because the more you understand your body, the better that you can channel what you want to channel or emote or express. Like you have even more access to using this vessel. And longevity, because you're going to understand how to train for not just a full out spurt of your life, but like to be able to return to it or keep on going. Yeah. And then you can be very specific. Hey, there's this thing that's been bothering me, or hey, somebody could come to me like, I'm just here. I thought it was a good idea. And I'd ask them, well, when you're in class or when you're performing, what do you struggle with? And then you have somebody with years of experience added onto your years of experience being able to work towards a goal.
Yeah, I was gonna say for sure, I like that. Like just even that word longevity. Because I feel like I've heard so many people say like they've retired from like their dance careers at like 30. And I'm like, well, I'm 30 years old. I don't plan to retire anytime soon.
Let me tell you, like I jumped into a dance intensive about a year and 2 months ago. And it was from not having been dancing much, because remember, we're in pandemic and I've been wearing more of my teacher hat, not getting to train as much. And I was able at 33, I was able to jump into a dance intensive because I understand how to listen to my body, how to work my body, how to prepare, and then also how to take care of my body in between. And it was great. And I got to have fun, and like, may this only be the beginning.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And thank you for your time, Galit. I know you gotta get off, but thank you so much for answering that last question.
Absolutely. It was wonderful. I want to stay in touch with all of you, Dr. Chrissy, Dr. Kathy, like
Yes,
please,
absolutely.
and everyone, please keep in touch as well. I'm here, I'm in LA, I'm a whole human. I'm sometimes even teaching in person. So yeah. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, and I would add on to that question even more, like on that physical therapy side or doctor side. We hear from a lot of our patients about, when they go to the doctor, they're just told to rest. Oh, I have knee pain. Okay, just rest. Or as Dr. Cassie was saying, you go to a physical therapist that maybe doesn't specialize in dance, they're probably going to get 80% of the way there. But at the same time, they're not understanding the demands. And while dancers, we are working very hard to tell the world that we are athletes, and it's getting out there. But as Galit was just saying, we're not necessarily treated as athletes in the same way of like the athletic trainers. When I grew up, we didn't have athletic trainer support in our dance.
Right.
We didn't have any of that. Now they have the athletic trainers, but it's still not specific to dance. It's like, okay, this hurts, do this. And that, the girls will come to me and I'm like, okay, man, I nothing against the athletic trainers. I'm one of those too, but like, they don't understand what you're doing or what you're trying to achieve. So I think that that's super important, because people that don't understand it, the first thing that they're going to say is like, just rest. And rest is never best. Now we might have to rest a certain area, but there's a gazillion other things that we can be doing. And we definitely don't want to ever just rest, because then we got to rebuild up the whole system. So, I just think that it's really important that you have people that understand the sport, because as much as dance is athletics, it's still very different athletics. Football players, they run forward and back, maybe with a little cutting here. We're flying through the air. We're spinning around our head and then dropping down to the ground. There's so many, there's no protocol for it, because it's such varied movement. And that's what's beautiful about dance, but that's what also makes it harder to treat and to get people strong. So that's why you need that specialty mindset.
Yeah, for sure. If y'all hear any thunder in the background, I'm in Louisiana. So
oh no.
This is normal for us, but I didn't know if it was coming through on the speaker at all. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get to our questions that we've gotten sent through Instagram Live. And if anybody's joining us that is on like the Zoom, feel free to send it in the chat too. I have it up so I can see the comments come in. So the first one we actually got, and this one was like right when we first started, was actually this person says, I'm a doctor, specifically an OBGYN with a dancing child. Now, how can I get extra training? Because I know a lot of moms kind of come in the studio and they see their daughters or their sons go into class, get their training, but then they're kind of just sitting there. So have y'all ever experienced that where like a mom of a child comes in?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think reaching out to a dance medicine specialist, I think most of us are more than happy to help educate, especially with people that might understand some of the lingo a little bit better. There's also a lot of different programs, and I know at some point, that's my goal is to create some programs to teach this information. So whether it's teaching it to the dancers, the instructors, or others, like some of that more basic dance information. There are some dance programs out there that kind of help try to put the two of them together, like with the dance lingo and with some specific stuff dance wise, but and I'd be more than happy to refer anybody out to them if you want to DM me, because that's where, as much as I was a dancer, that's where a lot of my, oh wow, this is amazing, this makes so much sense, but sometimes you need someone else to lead you that way.
Right.
So But I do think that most of us in the dance world, I think that we're super passionate. I know Doctors for Dancers group, Jen has interviewed us all, and it only lets people that are super passionate about it in. And one of our missions is to educate. And it's not just educating the dancers, because we're trying to change the culture. We're trying to change, we talk about a lot of things that we're doing the same things that we did 20 years ago, because that's what the dance teachers know. And so there's nothing against that, but it's like, we want to change that. We want to change that thought process. We want to challenge that and say, hey, we can do this better. Your dancers are going to be healthier. They're actually going to be better. We don't necessarily need to run the routine 30,000 times, if we work on some of these other things. So I think that those of us in this dance medicine community are super passionate about it and are more than willing to assist with that.
And I think that especially as a parent, nothing helps more than being involved in what that dance specialist may be telling that dancer. And especially if you have that medical background, I think that's just like multiple checks on the list to really get involved in that way. And I know parents are sometimes dropping the kids off. Like we have clients where the girls just get dropped off because mom's bringing, the other kid to another activity or something like that. So maybe after, when they come home, it's an opportunity for the dancer to teach their parent and say, hey, look, this is what I learned, and this is what my program is to work on for this week. We've even had some of our moms and dads do the exercises with the kids, because they're like, yeah, I need some core work as well. So making it like a family thing can really help not just the dancer feel supported and feel like they're working on the things that they need to work on, but it'll also help you as the parent to be involved with that and not necessarily keep tabs, but to understand what they're going through.
Right. And it's like exactly like you said, all these like moms and even dads are being like super parents, trying to like bring all 4 kids to their different like extracurricular activities, but having that extra time at home, because the biggest thing with parents is just being involved, right? So
yes,
like exercising together, that's already building that foundation to whenever they get older, realize, oh, this is really important to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So this question is kind of lengthy, so bear with me. So it's 2 parts. So this person says, so I have Singding, and I apologize if I'm saying it wrong, Singding Larson Johansson syndrome.
Okay.
That as close as I could, and tendonitis, and I get flare-ups regularly. I've been dealing with this for over 5 years, and I don't know what to do anymore. And I've done so much physical therapy, and I actually am consistent with my exercises, but I only experience 2 weeks to a month of relief, and then I'm back in pain. What should I do about that?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, that's a lengthy one right there.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely there's a lot of things that I have kind of to say about that, and sometimes it's kind of like with anything else, almost getting a second opinion. Going to see another physical therapist. I know we all love our PTs. We all like to say my PT, my physical therapist, my personal trainer. We like that to be part of our team. And so my first gut is being like, I would go into someone else, not from the same clinic, somebody that, and I'm not sure if you're working with a dance medicine specialist, because there's just a lot of different knowledge through physical therapists, and kind of like any job is that there's some that understand one aspect a little bit more than others. And so, I mean, my personal opinion would be to say, get a second opinion. And then also to really be identifying what activities or what activity level seems to flare it up. So kind of what seems to happen is that, we get cleared to do whatever we need to go back to, but then we go jump back into it 100%. So maybe there's a little bit of a more progression to go back to make sure that things are happening in a proper progression.
And any sort of like tendonitis issue is always a result of overuse, right? And as PTs, we don't want to prevent you from doing the things that you want to do, but there truly is an element of modification that might be needed. This person was saying that they were able to experience a few weeks to a few months of relief. So maybe cluing in onto the few things that are working and seeing how to maintain those and how to progress those might be a way to elongate that good healing time frame, so that you're focusing in on those things. And I think especially as athletes, depending on where we are in our lives, there are other major factors that affect things like this: nutrition, the amount of sleep you have, your stress in your life. You know, are you
growth spurt?
Yeah, are you healing well because you have a time where maybe you're off of dance and then you go back into it and you're also doing something else. So cluing in as well to those multifactorial elements can also kind of give you a better full picture idea of what also may be contributing to your pain, because research is showing that not having enough sleep, you know, a lot of our dancers are always running over to Starbucks to grab their frappuccinos, even though we told them like this is not it. So you know, to take a step back and to look at those factors as well may also help you kind of understand what else might be going on.
Yeah, I think that's huge, especially at the dancer that's a student as well. There's just so much going on, and they're in the studio till 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then coming home and doing their homework and going to bed at 12, 1 or 2. And especially for younger dancers, that just doesn't work. And then that leads your body to be more susceptible to any sort of injury. And then just also making sure that you've actually identified the movement impairment or what is causing the problem. So we know that we've got the tendonitis at the knee, but what's the what is that repetitive? As Dr. Cassie was saying, you know, that's usually an overuse injury. So where is that overuse coming in from? Is there a movement impairment in the plies? Is there a movement impairment as we're going to jump up? Like there's something going on that's what's kind of, you know, like I want to make sure that we've identified that and not just treating the symptoms.
Right, exactly. And I just had them send in a comment that they said they actually did confirm that they're working with an athletic trainer that specializes in dance. So so I guess to answer that question in synopsis of what we just said, get a second opinion for sure, even though, like you said, we build that relationship, that repertoire with that person, still second opinion is always good. And then seeing the outside factors into that, right? So seeing like kind of like almost honing in more on that a little bit more.
And definitely making sure that we're coming down to the root cause of the issue, not just treating the symptoms.
Right, exactly. Let's see. And given a few more minutes for them to kind of send a question in. Let's see if we got any more coming in. I do have one more, like just for me. I'll give everybody like a chance before I kind of like use it as like almost like a wrap-up question. Like I said in the beginning, for anybody that's joining now or is more at the end versus the beginning of this talk, all of this is for educational purposes. For example, like that last question, since it was so detailed, if you do have like a detailed question, don't be afraid to reach out for Doctors for Dancers. Go to their website, doctorsfordancers.com, or you go on there, there's actually a list of specialists if you need to find one in your area, or if you just want to reach out to either Dr. Chrissy, Dr. Cassie, or even Galit, if you want to find their contact info on there. I know we listed it here, but we also have it on that website. So looks like we're good on questions for right now. So my final
for you. I know you got to get running too.
I know. I would say I have like I have to train somebody at 5 p.m. Funny enough, cross training for them. He's not a dancer, but I put my little dancer like stuff in there. They don't realize it, but I'm like, y'all.
But everybody needs some of that.
Another big population we work with is runners and triathletes, and we kind of realize that we treat them both very similarly because the way that these overuse injuries occur is very similar even though the mechanisms themselves might be a little bit different. So we try to toss that in everywhere when we're working with everybody.
There's actually a lot of carryover. Yep.
Right. It's like I don't even realize it sometimes. I'll start writing their program and I'm like, oh yeah, this, and I try everything on myself. So I'm like, this would be fun. This will get them to get their strength up. This will help their stamina. And I'm like, I'm designing a dancer workout for the athlete. Okay.
It's perfect.
All right. So last question I have for y'all before we kind of wrap it up, so that way I don't take everybody's time too much, is that what can dancers do during the summer, during like how we have like this summer series, to get them ready, or at least maybe not change their training, but kind of learn from this to to get them ready for the upcoming season for dance. If y'all have any input on that.
Sure. I would say if you aren't doing any strength training already, now is the best time to start and to try to find the basics so that you are initiating a program that you can use when you have that off-season time. And then if you already have a strength program that you have initiated and have applied to your regular routine, don't be afraid to progress. Strengthening of muscles can only happen if we give them more to strengthen against. So sometimes we see people limit themselves to 10 or 15 pounds, when in reality, to really get you, if you're pushing your body weight through the air, whatever that weight is for you as a dancer, that's what you should be, building up towards. You should be doing body weight stuff. You should be doing over your body weight so that the body weight stuff is easier. So challenge is to progress that resistance and try we like to not to do the things that we're not good at.
Yes.
And so sometimes we have to kind of encourage ourselves, us included, we have to encourage ourselves to do that. So I would say increase your resistance or try to progress things. And then also try to do the things that, like, if you're not really good with upper body, try to give yourself a goal to work on that upper body strength, because clearly it is important in your dance ability.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then, I mean, just again, like Dr. Cassie was saying, like, we don't want to go from 0 to 100 in a day. So if you don't have a background in it, figure out how to do a proper squat. We have a couple videos on our YouTube channel that show about how we kind of cue people into getting into that perfect squat and making sure that they're bracing with their core, because most of our dancers like to sit in hyperextension. They like to hang out on their bones for support instead of using their actual core. And even if you are inexperienced, you've been doing some stuff, it's always good to start back to the basics and then build back up to it, especially if you haven't been doing it for some time. And then even sometimes, like, you might have to say, okay, I just built up to some more resistance and some more weight, but I'm feeling it a little bit in my back. Okay, maybe we have to go back and just re-educate the core how to stabilize. So, and we also, after you build up, like, again, this doesn't happen right away, but we typically will start with 10 to 12 reps, right? That's like the industry norm. But once you start lifting and you want to lift heavy stuff, we want to lift heavy enough weights, as Dr. Cassie was saying, like, you need to be able to lift in the end, like we have pressure going through our joints that are 5 to 8 times our body weight. So you need to have that extra weight, but you don't need to do 10 to 12 reps of that. When we're actually working on getting strong and powerful, we're looking to lift a weight that's 3 to 6 times, where that last 2 reps, you can do them, but you're like, I can't do another one. And then you need to rest. You can't go and say, okay, I'm going to go do 2 minutes of plyometrics. Like, you need to give the muscles some time to recover. And as we're doing that, we're actually building that strength, those muscle fibers and those fast twitch fibers that are going to make us more strong and more powerful. So we just can't stop with body weight and like some 10-pound dumbbells. You need to start there, but we need to not be scared to progress further than that.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things too, that it's like, even though, like both of y'all said, first, it's going to be hard. You're going to have to push through. You have to convince yourself on some days that when you really don't want to, you're like, look, just show up and do something.
Yes. As we do in dance class too. There's sometimes when you walk in dance class, you're like, I'm never going to make it through this class. And yet it's one of your better classes.
All right. And then the strength training too, I tell people a lot of the times that's the easiest way to see like your progressions, because it's numbers, right? So if you're lifting 15 pounds one day and then the next week you come in and you're able to do 20 pounds for that amount of reps, that already is a huge progression. Exactly. So it's like an easy way to kind of measure yourself. And then it also like feels really good to lift really, like it sounds like, oh, I don't want to gain, because this happens with even just women in general. Like we don't want to lift weights. We don't want to get bulky, but it's like once you're not going to get like that.
That's not, you're not.
How our bodies are made, but it's like, it feels, and that's with my female clients. It's like, once they lift something heavy, they're like, that was really cool. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm trying to get you to understand. It's cool to do it. And I would say it makes you feel strong and it makes you look good and like feel good.
Exactly. And you're strong. And that's what I always tell my female athletes that are like, but I don't want to get bulky. I'm like, You go to the back of the gym to those guys that are huge up here that are, bench pressing 500 pounds. You ask them how long they've been working to get there. I promise you, you're not going to get bulky because that's not what we're going for. That's not our goal.
No, for sure. It's like, and it's just getting that feeling of just feeling good and seeing that performance change in class and in rehearsal is like, it's like results you're going to get. Actually, I have a few more minutes before we're done. I actually got a question come in. This one's actually from a different person. Kind of same thing, dealing with tendonitis. If it might be a little bit more detailed, so the person who sent this in, you might have to reach out to kind of get a little bit more detailed question. We can kind of give a quick one right now. So they say, can you please tell us some treatments and exercises for tendonitis and hallux rigidus?
Okay, so first I have to get on my soapbox for 30 seconds about tendonitis is not really a thing. So itis means inflammation, and research has shown that our tendons are not actually inflamed. So like icing, while it feels good and it takes away the pain, so go ahead and do that if that's the key, but that's not going to solve the problem. What we're finding out is most tendinitises are really what we call a tendinosis. That's right, tendinopathy, that's right, not tendinopathy. So
many different words that could apply. It's like,
yeah, exactly. So basically what it is that there's actually some degeneration going in the tendons of that tendon, or some of the fibers in that tendon, in the collagen. So we need to make sure that it's truly a tendinopathy, because I think that everything gets categories.
Yeah, it's like an umbrella term. Yeah.
And what we find is that most people, they come in, they're like, I have Achilles tendonitis, and it's actually a nerve issue. So the couple things that is just to truly make sure that it is a tendinopathy, and that's the issue. And then if it is a tendinopathy, the first thing we need to do is unload that tissue. So for say it's an Achilles issue, yeah, you don't want to be jumping up onto releve. You might need a little lift in your shoe for when you're walking. We don't typically tell people to go into high heels, but something that's a little bit lifted, because that will take pressure off that Achilles tendon. So we need to unload the tissue. But the real thing that we need to do is find out why. So if we're having a tendon issue, it's because something else is not doing his job. So we need that, and that's where with the other question that came in, it was like, I really want to make sure that the issue has been identified of why that tissue is getting pissed off. Like, why is he doing too much? Who's not doing their job that's forcing him to do too much? So if it is a true tendinopathy, the first thing we need to do is unload it, and then we need to strengthen it. There's a lot of research out there that is not awesome research for tendinopathies that basically have said doing like eccentrics. So like, again, if we're talking about the Achilles, like standing on a box, going up onto your toes, and then letting your heels go lower than the box, that's actually probably going to piss it off more. So there was one small research study that had a few participants that had some sort of benefit from it. And then for some reason, the physical therapy world took it as gospel and everybody does it. I find that a lot of my patients, if they come in with Achilles issues, we do that. It just aggravates the tissue. So the first thing we need to do is unload it, just to give it time to rest. And that means in our daily activities as well. And then we need to do some isometric type stuff where we're holding a position. So again, if we're talking about the Achilles, we're going to talk about holding into that releve for 45 seconds, a number of times, because that's actually going to decrease the pain response. And then we got to build the strength. And typically then that means that we got to deal with the core, the glutes, a whole bunch of other things that are there. So I wish it were super easy.
That's why when the question came in, I was like, maybe you look at, I would say, send in like a DM, send a message, say, we'll try to answer it, but it was very detailed.
Right, but I think it's an important part because it gets umbrellaed into this term. There are so many, and whether it's plantar fasciitis, which again is not an itis, it's a fasciopathy. There are a number of other things that could actually be causing the similar type of pain. And that's where, I'm on a lot of like different Facebook groups of injuries, and people are like, I have this, but I've been doing this for a year and it's not working. Well, if it's not working, It's part of it, what it is.
Right.
So, you know, like that's where I understand that we all want to try to like self-diagnose and do all those kind of things. But if you want to limit your time off, time from being in pain, you know, I highly recommend getting into somebody who can actually like look at it specifically and really kind of just work it through and give you that specific treatment plan for what you're particularly going through and what the true issue is.
Right, exactly. Well, no, I was gonna say all that stuff, like you said, it's like, even though it's like these questions and it's like, they're so like, to us, like you said, how there's like a soapbox, it's like stuff that I think of, it's like, yeah, I'm sure that's gonna be like what common people think, but then when you start explaining it, you're like, well, this is gonna be a little bit more detail to this than what most average people think. And that's why we do these like summer series, right? So that way we can kind of let the general dancer public who are not as familiar with these terms, that when they kind of break it down like this, it's not as bad as it seems. Or if it is as bad, then reach out to someone like yourself or any other dance specialist on the Doctors for Dancers network.
And to be perfectly honest, like, so in our state in Illinois, we have direct access for physical therapy. So it's really nice that like you don't have to go to another physician. Like you can come in and we can evaluate and kind of see what's going on. And then if we feel like you need imaging or something like that, that's when we refer you back. But it's really funny how many scripts we'll get and we see those diagnoses of like 10 and you're just like, no, that's not what it is. Because the physician never even puts their hand on them, never even watches them move. Like, and so it really like, that's what we do is like, we're here to figure out what caused it. So we fix that cause so it doesn't come back. And then also then teach you what to do with it if it does.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you to everybody who's joined. Thank you to our dance specialist, Dr. Chrissy, Dr. Cassie. I know Galit had to get off kind of early, but thank you for your time for today, for even just making time to talk to us. I know y'all probably all have very busy schedules, and just the fact that y'all are able to talk to us for a little over an hour now is like more than we can ask for. Quick little thing at the end. I know I've said this earlier, but if you do have any more in-depth questions, like kind of like the ones we just got, or if you need other questions answered, don't be afraid. Excuse me. Don't be afraid. I couldn't think of the word. Don't be afraid to reach out to our dance specialists. We put their different Instagrams, different contact information in our chat box. And then if you also need other additional info, go on doctorsfordancers.com. And like I said, we have a list of specialists as well as like a FAQ page that kind of brings through the general questions that we get as well. So thank y'all so much. I would say I'm excited. Like I said, this is what I'm most excited about, like hosting. I would say I hope everyone has a good night, and we're still doing this summer series once per week. I will actually be hosting the one that's coming at the end of the month, but I would say please feel free to stay tuned in it. There's a lot more information that we're going to learn from this. So thank you all. Thank you for our dance specialists, and I hope y'all have a great Tuesday.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.